And joining us now here on the program, Curt Blade, Senior Vice President, Industry Sectors and Product Leadership at the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. Curt, great to catch up with you again, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Jesse.
Thanks for the time, Curt. We got to talk about the September equipment numbers. I know
Mhm.
it's been a little while since we've had a chance to chat, but looking at the September numbers, it sounds like things are staying relatively positive here, Curt.
Well, I'm always an optimist, and I like to find the positive in these numbers, even though we are overall down for the month of September and year to date. If you look inside the story, it's actually pretty good. The row crop tractors are actually up about 10%, and self-propelled combines are up about 7%. Now, granted, we're seeing some softness in the smaller tractor market, but that's comparing to some numbers that were absolutely unprecedented. So
Mhm.
when you compare year to year, it's not necessarily a true story of what the health of this market actually is right now.
Well, and thinking just about these numbers, like you said, you kind of got to dive a little bit deeper into them. I mean,
Mhm.
what are some of the trends that you are seeing here over the last couple of months, Curt, that maybe has you excited with this ag equipment industry?
Well, the thing that has me the most excited is really that true ag industry. So it's the larger horsepower, two-wheel drive, and front-wheel assist tractors are just growing quite nicely, or at least remaining strong. And then that growth in the combine market is always exciting because you don't wake up tomorrow and decide that you're going to buy a combine. You consider that purchase because you're going to be using it for the next 5 to 10 years to justify that investment. So it gets pretty exciting when you see a growth in that particular market. That indicates where farmers' attitudes are. Their optimism towards the future. Now, having said all of this, the storm cloud that we are facing is availability, and I know from my own personal farms experience, we're having a little bit trouble getting the delivery in time for tax write-off. We're certainly going to be fine from a planting and from a harvest standpoint, but being able to get the timing to work out from a tax write-off is a little challenging right now. And I know that experience can be replicated over and over, or around the nation. But I get really optimistic that the ag economy is continuing to look pretty strong for the coming future.
Well, and to your point about the that storm cloud side of it, Kurt, I know as well that we hear this talk about certain dealerships implements having trouble keeping equipment on the lot, or they might get a request from somewhere, across the state, for instance, and they're not
Mhm.
willing to let their inventory go. It just seems
Right.
like things are pretty tight in that respect, and I think a lot of that goes back to maybe parts availability and some of the supply chain challenges that we still have out there, Kurt.
Yeah, those supply chain challenges are real. Whether you're buying a tractor or a pickup truck or a combine or a pinball machine, they're real. And it takes 100% of the parts to ship a tractor. So even though there is some improvement in the supply chain, you still have to have 100% of those parts available. And so I think that's what we're kind of dealing with a little bit right now. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about with the industry, despite the supply chain challenges, is that the manufacturers are truly recognizing the seasonal nature of farming, and put a high priority on wear parts, put a high priority on the things that is just necessary to get the crop in the ground or get the crop out of the ground. As long as that happens, we're in pretty good shape. Obviously, we would love to have more inventory on dealer lots. I know the dealers would love that as well. But that's just not the reality we're living in right now. And that may be with us for a while. In fact, I would encourage all of your listeners, as they're thinking about their equipment needs for the next 2, 3, 5 years, work closely with your dealers who are working closely with the manufacturers to anticipate those needs, so that you know that when you need that piece of equipment, it's available and you're planning ahead right now.
Kurt, how about our friends up in Canada? Was there any big differences in the September numbers on the Canadian side versus the US side?
Well, the Canadian market and the U.S. market tend to sort of track one to one, and September is really no exception. I mean, there's some mild differences. I think we saw actually even a little bit more strength in the row crop tractor, and even more strength in the combine market. But that could be just due to the seasonal nature of it. I think when you look at the overall year upon year, they're actually pretty similar in between both U.S. and Canada. The good news is with Canada specifically, we were dealing with some pretty soft markets for the last 3 years. So it's pretty optimistic to see that these are coming back around and getting closer in line with where the U.S. market is.
Fantastic. Well, Curt, any other final thoughts that you want to share with us about the September numbers or just the ag equipment market in general right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a good time to be in agriculture, given all the technology that's out there. And, I think we can talk about tractor sales, but boy, what I love getting excited about is talking about how the technology that's employed on these new tractors is really making a difference in farmers' lives and, really making this a more efficient and sustainable food production system. So, man, during these winter months, as your listeners are taking a look at their plans for next year, take a good hard look at some of this technology because it's pretty exciting about what the future holds for this industry.
Everything from adding pieces to our current equipment to autonomous tractors and technology, you name it, plenty of stuff out there. Couldn't agree more. We
Yep,
appreciate the time. With that, Curt Blades with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. Thank you for joining us today. We'll talk to you again soon.
you bet. Thanks, Jesse.